Lily, you're bringing shame to our family. Leave now, you're not welcome here. My father's harsh words cut through the air during my brother David's wedding. The embarrassment was worse because David didn't say a word, letting me be kicked out. I was furious and about to leave, but then I heard someone asking for help. A hotel worker needed my assistance in an emergency. In that moment, my father saw who I really was, and it seemed to shock him. I'm Lily, I said, one of two kids in our family. Growing up, my father, a strict lawyer, always favored David, making me feel like I was always trying to catch up. Our life was all work. No play, lessons and studying took up every second. Even having fun with friends was something I couldn't enjoy. No matter how hard I tried to meet my father's high standards or match David's successes, I always felt like a failure. The turning point came when I took an entrance exam for a prestigious school, hoping to finally win my father's approval. When I didn't pass, my father became even more focused on David, leaving me feeling invisible. My mom tried to support me, but the tension grew, especially with David acting like I didn't matter. So, after high school, I quietly left and only left a note for my mom. I found a job at a hotel, where I could live and work, and there, I finally started to feel free. Lily, you made another mistake. How many times do I have to tell you? I'm sorry, I'll fix it right away. Get it together. Mike, the hotel manager, was tough on me. As someone who had just graduated high school and wasn't used to this kind of work, I was always getting scolded. But even though it was hard, I kept going, trying to prove myself. Unlike my dad, Mike's feedback helped me grow. When he praised me, it gave me the push to do better. One moment that really stood out was during the New Year's rush at the hotel. After training, I was given the responsibility to work alone. This year, the hotel was busier than ever, with so many guests to take care of. I was running all over, trying to help with dinner service and room service. Even though I was still learning, I worked hard, knowing I had to do my best. Then, things got worse on New Year's Day when a coworker got sick. I worked longer hours, trying to keep everything running smoothly. Just when we thought things couldn't get worse, the kitchen sink broke during the dinner rush. With no plumber available on New Year's Day, everything started falling apart. Mike was getting more and more frustrated. Desperate, I stepped up. Mike, can I try fixing the sink? I think I can do it. Mike was unsure but agreed since we had no other choice. What he didn't know was that my high school focused on science, and I had learned a little about plumbing. I got to work, and in about 30 minutes, the kitchen was back in order. The pipe was fixed. I did it, I called out to Mike. He quickly turned on the faucet, and water flowed out as it should. Everyone in the room cheered and smiled. Great job, Lily, you're my star, Mike said, smiling at me. His praise felt amazing. Working alongside Mike that day had been an eye-opening experience, and we got through the chaos of New Year's together, coming out on top. The sense of pride I felt that day stayed with me, shaping who I am now. 15 years passed, and I found myself completely immersed in my job at the hotel. Then one day, I got a letter from Mom, breaking the long silence between us. It was about David's upcoming wedding. Even though I had distanced myself from Dad and David, Mom's request for me to attend the wedding tugged at my heart. I reluctantly agreed. The venue, a fancy hotel, was just as extravagant as David and Dad liked. As I walked in, dressed in a suit, I couldn't shake the feeling that I didn't belong there, surrounded by wealthy people. Maybe David's bride was someone Dad had picked, someone who fit into his world of connections and status. In the waiting room, surrounded by people of high society, I felt like an outsider. I stood at the edge, watching the powerful and privileged interact, with no one to talk to. When I locked eyes with two familiar faces, a wave of unease washed over me. Dad and David were staring at me, their disapproving looks clear. What are you doing here? Dad's voice was low and commanding, bringing up painful memories. Is it wrong for me to come to David's wedding? I replied, trying to ease the tension. David didn't respond, his face showing the strain of our broken family. What have you been doing all these years? Probably some useless job. David's words hit hard, his disdain was clear. You shouldn't be here, he added, his voice dripping with contempt. Mom hurried over, trying to step in. Come on, Lily is here to celebrate, don't be so harsh, she begged, but her plea was drowned out by Dad's stern voice. Enough, Dad thundered. Lily, listen to me, you're a disgrace. I don't want you ruining David's wedding. Get out. Anger bubbled up inside me, fueled by years of neglect and rejection. I hadn't even wanted to come to this wedding, yet I was humiliated like this. Fine, I'm leaving, I said firmly, but just as I was about to walk out, a staff member approached me with urgency. "What's going on?" I asked, both curious and frustrated. "We have an unexpected guest today. We're short on seats and food," the staff member said, their concern obvious. Everyone in the waiting room looked worried: Mila, the planner, and even the bride's family. They all waited for a solution. Caught between my anger and my sense of duty, I hesitated. So Mila can't handle it alone, and they want my help? What does this have to do with me? I thought, still angry. But then, memories of David's past kindness surfaced, the times he made room for fun during our study breaks. If I just left now, I'd be no better than what I was angry about. With a deep breath, I decided to help. "Can you take me to Mila?" I said, determination in my voice. The staff member's expression softened, and I followed them back into the waiting room, reclaiming the space I'd just been kicked out of. In the center of the room, Mila, Dad, and the bride's father all looked worried. As I approached, Dad's eyes met mine, and his hostility was clear. "Why is Lily here?" Dad asked sharply, his voice filled with disbelief. Before he could say more, Mila stepped in. "General Manager, please, we need your help," she said urgently. Dad's surprise was obvious as I calmly explained my role as the general manager of the hotel chain. I had been with the company since its early days, and now we had hotels and wedding venues across the country. The very hotel we were in was under my management. "I've got this," I told them, waving away Dad's protest. "I'm busy right now, we'll talk later." With purpose, I turned to Mila. "Don't worry, Mila, get the seats and everything else ready. I'll handle the food," I said, watching her relax a little. "Got it, I'll leave the food to you, General Manager," she said, before rushing off to get things done. With everyone watching, I left the room and went to find my friend, Chef Jackson. "Hey, you," I called out as he came out of the kitchen. "Lily, what are you doing here?" he asked, curious. "I'm just a guest today, but we're short a meal. Can you help me out?" I asked, hoping he could fix the problem. "Of course, I'll make something work," he said confidently. "Thanks so much, I owe you dinner," I said gratefully. "I'm looking forward to it," he replied with a smile. After tying up a few things, I went back to the waiting room. The guests had already gone to the ceremony, leaving only my parents and the bride's parents behind. I let them know the problem was solved, and the tension in the room eased. "We've got an extra meal coming," I told them, noticing how relieved my mom and the bride's parents looked. Dad, however, was still holding on to his pride. "Lily, thank you so much. Because of you, the celebration will go smoothly," Dad said, genuinely grateful. "It's all in a day's work for the general manager," I said with a smile, leading everyone into the ceremony hall. As the lights dimmed and the bride and groom entered, I couldn't help but be impressed by how beautiful they looked. The ceremony went off without a hitch, and when it was time for the meal, I made sure everyone was served before I could finally relax. Afterward, I had a warm conversation with both families, and the bride's family thanked me over and over. "These are the moments I love about my job," I said honestly, feeling touched by their gratitude. "Lily, thank you, this was the best day, all thanks to you," they said, truly appreciative. "No problem at all, wishing you both the best," I replied with a smile before turning to my dad and David. "Lily, you did great, thank you," Mom said, her words full of pride. Dad and David wanted to speak with me next. David apologized first, thanking me for my help, and I smiled. "Glad I could help, David, it's all good," I said, before turning to Dad, who stayed silent. With a sense of closure, I accepted their gratitude, knowing that, despite everything, we could find some common ground. Just then, my phone buzzed with a work message from a hotel in the next town. "Looks like more work, but I enjoy it, so no complaints," I said. "All right, I've got to go, you two take care." I said my goodbyes and headed out, ready for the challenges ahead. As I walked away, I realized that I probably wouldn't see David or Dad again. With that thought, I left without looking back, heading back to work. 3 days after David's wedding, I relished a rare day off. Relaxing on the sofa with a steaming cup of coffee, my peaceful moment was interrupted by the doorbell. Curious, I went to answer it, only to find David standing there. "David, what brings you here?" I asked, surprised by his visit. "Sorry, I got your address from Mom. I wanted to talk to you," David explained, his tone tentative. I invited him in, assuring him that my home didn't have to be spotless, and poured him a cup of coffee. David took it, savoring a slow sip. "Thanks, this smells great," he said, attempting a smile. We settled into conversation, but his expression became more serious as he began to speak. "I'm really sorry for everything," David said suddenly, catching me off guard. I was taken aback, unsure of why he was apologizing in person. "It's all right, David," I reassured him, trying to ease the tension. But David wasn't finished. With surprising vulnerability, he opened up. "You might think I'm the older brother who has it all together, but I envy you, Lily," he confessed. His words hit me hard, and I sat in stunned silence. It was a side of him I'd never seen. "I had no idea you felt that way, David," I said, feeling a sudden pang of guilt. "It's not your fault, Lily," he said, offering a weak smile. His words felt sincere, and a new understanding began to form between us. "I'm sorry, I never realized you were struggling too," I admitted, my own feelings of remorse surfacing. David's faint smile softened the moment. "I think you've been through things I can't even imagine. I really admire that, but I also want you to know about me," I said, the weight of my words sinking in. I paused, gathering my thoughts before continuing. David listened quietly, encouraging me to keep going. Breaking away from our parents and becoming independent wasn't easy. The beginning was really hard, I confessed, recognizing that we shared similar struggles. "We both had tough times," David said, his tone genuine. He seemed like he had more to say, but I was unsure how to offer advice or reassurance. I spoke from the heart. "To be honest, I think you should follow what you really want to do, David, without worrying about Dad," I said, hoping my words would help him find some clarity. David's face softened as he processed my advice. "You're right, Lily, you've helped me make sense of things. Thank you," he said, his voice filled with gratitude. "No, thank you, David, for coming over," I replied, walking him to the door. He promised to come back for coffee soon. A month later, I received a letter from David, sharing that he had decided to leave his career as a lawyer and pursue his passion for glass crafting. Despite Dad's disapproval, he found support from his wife and a renewed sense of purpose in his new path. As I reflected on David's journey and our shifting family dynamics, I couldn't help but feel proud of the bond we had started to rebuild. Lost in thought, my phone's alarm snapped me back to reality, signaling the start of another busy day in the job I had chosen.